Welcome back to another episode of mixing. Strictly mixing. This will be part 2 of my mixing tutorial on mixing a hip-hop beat with Ableton. Alright, this is where we left off. We just finished doing the levels. And today we'll be doing EQ and compression. Let's listen to where we are first. First things first, I'm going to cut some low frequencies out of the sample. You can tell just by soloing it. There's like a bass guitar in there, you can obviously hear. So first things first, we're going to take an auto filter and filter that out. We're going to set it to the high pass filter right here. And when you're EQing something, you want to make sure you're doing it so it sounds musical. You can pick different frequencies, and some frequencies won't sound as musical for the song that you're working on, so try to make sure you pick one that works well for the key you're in and the song you're in. I'm going to do a 12 decibel cut instead of 24. We can still cut a little more from this sample because I'm still hearing some bass. It's probably as good as it's going to get without destroying the sound. Then for the bass, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to put a low pass filter on it, and I'm going to roll off any unnecessary high frequencies. So this is obviously going to be different depending on the sound you're using. Some basses are mostly sub bass, and you won't have to cut too much frequencies from it. And some basses are very full, and you're going to have to cut a lot more from it in order to make it work with the song. Okay, so now we have the bass and sample playing nicely together. I could actually do some shaping to the drums using EQ, so I'm going to do that now. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to low pass the kick. I'm just going to try to get it to fit with our other sounds as much as possible. So I'm just going to roll off any unnecessary high frequencies here. So around 3K for me on this specific kick. On this specific song. And then next I'm going to do the opposite to the snare, do a high pass filter, roll off any unnecessary low frequencies. Around 60 is good here for me. And then I'm also going to roll off some high frequencies too. I'm just going to try to find a spot where it sounds very harmonic. That'd probably be good right there. Now we're going to shape the hi-hat. Going to use some auto filters here. First, let's roll off some lows. You can really roll off a lot with the hi-hats. Like, I'm going to be rolling off around 300 here, which is pretty high. You can get away with cutting more from the hi-hats and rides and whatnot than you can from the other sounds, obviously. I'll see if we can cut some highs too. We may not be able to. It's kind of a dangerous game cutting highs from your hi-hats, but it can sound good. I don't know if we can do it with just the auto filter here. I'd say around there is pretty good, around 19,000. Next thing I want to do is cut some room in the sample for the drums. So to do this, I'm going to drag it in EQ8. Just sipping on the blood of my enemies. Not a big deal. It tastes like shit though. So with this EQ8 here, we're just only going to be using bell curves. We're going to cut little dips in the areas for the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat. If you have a different song, obviously you may have to cut in some different areas than I am right now. But just use it as like a reference for an idea. And this is a good idea. I do it all the time. So trust me. Usually what I'll do is I'll try to sweep it. I'll cut it really deep and I'll try to sweep it until I find an area where it sounds good. Right there sounds good for me, around 60. Then I'll minimize it a bit so it's not as drastic. Around there sounds good. That's a good start for the kick. Okay, now we got a little dip there for the snare. Now we need one more for the hi-hat. I would say around there sounds good. And if you're wondering, yes, their EQ points can be in the wrong place. Everything about EQ and frequency is based off of pitch. So, as you may guess, pitch needs to be in tune, so frequency needs to be in tune as well. I'm not explaining that in this video though. I have it as an exclusive video on my Patreon. You can find down in the description. If you want to make sure your EQ is always harmonic, I have a trick for that. I won't be showing it in this video though. So yeah, Patreon, or you may be able to find it on my YouTube if you look hard enough. I think I left it on there somewhere. Alright, I'd say it's pretty much there. Main thing I want to do now is do some compression and sidechain compression. So let's get started with the sidechain compression. So I'm going to have the kick, sidechain, the bass. I have a video up here on basic sidechain compression if you don't quite understand it. I also have another one on transient sidechain. I'll link a playlist with both of them up here if you need some help with sidechain compression. I'll try explaining it a little bit in here though. First thing I'm going to do is drag a compressor into the bass. Then enable the sidechain. Then I'm going to select the input as the kick. Then I'm going to change the mode to RMS. I'm going to bring down the threshold a bit. And the ratio up a bit. And then I'm going to click this button here to change the look ahead, or to open up the menu so you can change the look ahead. And then change it to 1 milliseconds. We do this in order to make it so we can have the sidechain on time. We want it to be on time with the kick if possible, and not be ahead or late of it. You can use it to get ahead of it too if you want, but we don't want that. I don't think anyone wants that ever. So I'm playing with the attack and release settings until it sounds normal and like it's just sitting perfectly in the mix time-wise. It helps to turn up the ratio. Once you have your threshold set, you don't want to change it because that can change all the settings, but you can dial back the ratio without messing things up too much. So you want to lessen the effect. That's the way to do it. Listening now to find the right timing. Okay, I think I found the right timing. Now I'm going to dial back the ratio until it sounds where I want it to be. Probably about a ratio of 2. Another trick also, FYI, is you can use the dry wet knob down here. And that's a good way to blend back in some of the unsidechain signal back into it if you're finding that it's still too strong. But I think I have it where I want it here. I'm mainly doing this to make room for the low frequencies of the kick when the bass and kick are playing at the same time. If you have them both, then your low frequencies will jump up. And this can cause some problems in mastering later on when you're trying to reach your max loudness. It also sounds cleaner too. So one thing I hear about this mix is I feel like the drums could sound a little bit beefier. And I think we could do that with some parallel compression. I'm going to explain to you guys what parallel compression is real quick. One way to get your drums to sound beefier is to compress them and then make them louder in the mix. One problem with that is you can be crushing the transients a little bit while doing that. So someone invented the idea of putting your compression on a return for the drums. You can do this with anything, but we're going to do it for the drums in this instance, and it's called parallel compression. So you have the parallel signal, the return signal, that's very compressed, and you have your dry signal, and you're going to mix the two to try to find a nice beefy blend that mixes into the mix. So I'm going to insert a return track, and I'm going to put a compressor on it, and I'm going to turn off the makeup gain, and I'm going to bring down the threshold a little bit. And then I'm going to send some signal from the drums over to the compressor. I'm actually going to send a lot. And I'm also going to turn down the drum volume as well. Okay, so I'm just gonna play with the settings a little bit until it sounds good. Really, that's the trick a lot of the time here. Okay, there we go. I think I found a nice little blend there. Let's hear what it sounds like before and after the parallel compression. This is before. And this is after. Okay, that's it for this episode of mixing a beat. In the next episode, I'll be focusing on reverb, delay, saturation, and any other effect we can fit into this mix. See you guys in the next course. Check out my other tutorials if you guys haven't yet. I also make music too. I'll link some stuff down in the description. Tune in next time when I tune a banjo and then destroy it.